Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Woolly Wonka Fibers podcast. My name is Anne. Today is Monday, February 19th, 2018. So happy President's Day if you are here in the US. We are having kind of a blustery day here. They're supposed to get snow north of us, but I don't think here. So it's just windy mostly. Anyway, I hope everybody is doing great. I hope things are wonderful where you are in the world. I wanted to check in before I head off to Stitches West. That will be, I will be leaving for Stitches West midweek. I'll be flying to California. Stitches West happens with the preview Thursday night, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the vending days, class days, and all that good stuff. I shipped all my boxes. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see the large stack of yarn and patterns that are already there. I got the information that everything had been delivered to the advanced warehouse. So that'll just go in my booth and be there when I get there. My friends Dennis and Jeffrey, who are the yarn guys, and I know you guys have heard me talk about them quite a bit in the past, they are also attending this show. They're like one row over from me, and they were super gracious and are letting me borrow some of the grid wall panels that I use, so I didn't have to pay to ship those, which is a huge, huge thing. They're big, they're 6x2, and heavy. So it was going to wind up being expensive to ship, and they had room in their van, and Dennis was going to drive out. So thank you guys. If you're watching this, I really, really appreciated that you were able to help me out. So getting geared up for that. Right now, since I'm kind of, I've got a couple of days before I travel, I've already started to work on the dyeing for Yarn Fest, which will be, I think it's the 11th and 12th, or 10th, 11th, and 12th of April. So that's actually coming up pretty soon. Got to get going on that, and that'll be my project when I'm back. So let's see. What am I working on? So I have some secret knitting things. Actually, let me back up. Do this in a good order. If you're a new viewer, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you enjoy your time with me. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for subscribing, commenting, liking, all those other good things one does with YouTube videos. You can find me on the web at woollywonkafibers.com. woollywonkafibers.com. You can find me as Woolly Wonka Fibers on Instagram, Facebook, and our Ravelry group. Now I think I can move on to knitting. So I have a couple of secret knitting projects that I'm working on. I finished up one this past week. That's going to be for knit filament this spring. And then I'm working on another knit filament piece that are going to be kind of travel. It's a small enough project. I'm going to use it as a travel project. So I can't show you any of those. But getting there on those 4 projects for that particular collection. Then, as y'all probably know, if you've watched me for any length of time, I like to have something to work on in my booth. Stitches West, it's not very quiet. There's a little bit of time on Sunday, and maybe from like the 4:30 to 5 bracket, it slows down a little, but anyway, I like to have something just in case, idle hands and all of that. So one of the new colorways that I've dyed up is also kind of going along with the theme of pink for the Woolly Wonka Palooza. If you're participating in that, pink is our February color. So this colorway is Heartbreaker. It is darker than that in real life, but it is a speckle dye pink, kind of a crushed strawberries color with little flecks of red and kind of some orange creamsicle colors in it. And I am knitting up Helen Stewart's Winter Rose socks. Now, don't get too excited because there is not much here, but here is where I am on these. I've done the ribbing, and I've started just the first couple of rows of lace. So these are my work on in the booth project. They're pretty straightforward, even though they're technically lace. And I'm at the 10% mark for anyone who cares or is keeping score on these. The way Helen writes her patterns, everything, when you get to a certain line, she's got marked how much percentage-wise you've finished of a given thing. So this is only the first sock, but about 10% in. I really like how this colorway is knitting up. I wish that the color would show a little bit truer to life, but it's getting washed out for whatever reason. We have weird light today, but it is pink for sure. So I am working on that as my sort of personal project right now. I love to knit socks when I travel because they're super portable and it's one skein of yarn, but you have a lot of knitting time invested in them. So yeah, really liking those. I guess I should mention the base is my Rhiannon sock. That's the 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. 465 yards and 100 grams. So it's a lighter weight sock yarn. So there's that. Let's move on to spinning. This will be a fairly short video today because I don't have like 6 books that I've read in the last 2 weeks. I wanted to share with you guys where I am on my current spinning project. You might remember I was spinning up a potions plying pack on Polwarth from 2 of by hand. They are no longer dying, or I would be happy to share their card with you, but they do not exist. So what this was it was 4 1-ounce braids of 4 different colorways of Polwarth. You saw these 2 last time. This kind of greenish blue-gray and this kind of spumoni pink brown periwinkle colorway. And I have finished up the other 2. They are this pink lavender gold colorway and this really pretty blue and lavender colorway. So I spun these all as a 2-ply fingering weight yarn. So I have enough here. There's 4 ounces. So I have enough here for a pair of socks. And I think I commented on the fact that these were not a, they're not a true gradient in that there's not specifically color shifts, but I do think they could kind of work depending on how you wanted to organize the colors. There are less knots on that side, sort of. This one to me, which I think is their Luna Lovegood colorway, is kind of an outlier. I think it's really bright compared to the other ones, but I could see that working as a pair of socks, or using this for the heels and cuffs, and then using those for the stripes and that for the contrast. I think that would work okay. So they probably will at some point become hand spun, hand knit socks. Not in any rush to do that, just whenever I get to it. Or mittens or like long mitts, something like that. I think it'd be fun to play with the colorways, but I really do think this would go great as a contrast color as I drop it. And these 3 kind of go better together without this as part of the blend. This is a contrast. So we'll see what becomes of that, but that is another 4 ounces down. I am up to 8 ounces this year. Kind of slow, but I knew the beginning of this year was going to be that way, so I'm not upset or, you know, feeling pressured or anything. Just that's where I am. So next up on my spinning, I thought I would tackle a fiber that I have from Stash that would fulfill the green prompt for the Woolly Wonka Palooza for March. Because I know I'm going to be out of town and then it's basically March when I get back. Whoosh. So these are hand-carded bats. They are from Funky Carolina. Again, one of my favorite longtime Stash fiber producers. They are dyed Blueface Leicester and glitter. And I have 4 ounces. Oh, you can actually see the glitter in that. That is some awesome stuff. So I have 2 of these for a total of 4 ounces. They're 2 ounces each. I love this. These are going to probably be fingering weight as well, just because I find it so versatile to spin fingering weight. Yes, I could make socks with these, but I could also make a cowl. I could also make a shawl. I could do mitts. I could do mitts and a hat. Yeah, I like fingering weight yarn, but it takes longer to spin. Anyway, the colorway on this is Iris. So that's a nice spring color, and it definitely has green in it, so I thought that would work great for that. So that's where I am for spinning coming up. Let's see. I think we're up to books, and I'm only 10 minutes in, so if this is 15 minutes, I'll be shocked and surprised. Anyway, I have finished a book this past week. It is called Transatlantic. I will, as always, put a link below to, excuse me, the Goodreads page. This was a book I read for my 2018 challenge that was to pick a book that has a non-typical or non-traditional way in which it's written, like the structure is different. So this book is written about, it is kind of about a family, but it's presented in a more extended way. So I think I alluded to the fact when I was talking to you guys last time about books. This book opens with 3 different stories. The first story is set about a pilot and a navigator. It's just after World War I. They're kind of the first team to pilot a plane across the North Sea as a commercial flight. They've got a mail bag on board. And they were 2 actual people. Like, this is not, that part is just history. It's not, the characters are not made up. Obviously, the story is somewhat fictionalized because the author is trying to tell a tale that has something to do with this particular flight. The second chapter is on Frederick Douglass, the ex-slave and abolitionist who is in Ireland doing a lecture tour to try to raise money to live on, but also to sort of further the abolitionist cause. And he is on this lecture circuit with his sponsor, who's a Quaker. And it's a very interesting chapter because I wasn't aware that Douglass had gone to Ireland and lectured. I knew he lectured in the United States, but not overseas. So there was a very strong abolition movement, particularly among the Quakers on both sides of the Atlantic. So that's kind of the tie-in there. And so while Douglass is in Ireland, he starts to see the effects of what would be the beginning of the potato famine and the potato blight. And his presence greatly influences one of the servants in one of the houses he stays in. The third story that is tied in here is set in the 80s. It's about Senator George Mitchell, who was appointed by the Clinton administration to act as a sort of go-between to try to hammer out some ground rules, treaty, if you will, in Ireland between Northern Ireland and the remainder of Ireland after the Troubles, after the worst of the Troubles. And it's a very interesting portrait of Mitchell. I don't know how accurate it is, but it certainly creates a character with a person who you would want to have on your side. He's very level-headed. He's very balanced. He tries his best to make this work for everybody in a sensible way. So those 3 stories kick off this book. And then after that, the next chapter starts during the Civil War, and it's in the United States. And one of the characters that's from that first set of 3 stories shows up in that story. And then we start to meet her descendants, and we see how the other two stories, how the story of the two aviators and how the story of Senator Mitchell combine in the rest of these people's lives that happen on both sides of the Atlantic. There's obviously a very strong sort of Irish history basis for this, but there's a lot of the Irish immigrant in America tied in to the stories as well. I had a little bit of trouble with this one just because it is not a linear storyline, and I struggled a little bit remembering, like, where does this fit in? How does this fit into the timeline? But the author tells these stories. The author's name is Colum McCann. He tells these people's stories so engagingly, so convincingly, that makes them completely come to life, and you want to see what happens to them. Like, how does this fit this larger puzzle? And because of that, I cranked through this book. I really enjoyed it. I don't know that it's kind of everybody's jam. I could see how it would be. There is some action, but it's basically a plot-driven book, character-driven book, not plot-driven, excuse me, character-driven book. He's got some other books that are also written outside of a sort of typical writing style that I may explore and see. I think the one that I have on my wish list right now is called As the Great World Turns, I think. And I have to say that the final chapter, which is set basically 20th century, it's the last chapter chronologically, and it's the last chapter in the book. The woman who appears in that chapter is so beautifully drawn, and it's such a bittersweet story about her. That one really hooked me. I read in the back of the book some of the information about the author's, like some interviews that he had done and why he made some choices he made. And I was pleased to see that the professional interviewer person came up with one of the concepts that I came up with this book, which is this is a male writer writing about. I mean, the book starts off with it's very male oriented, right? These two aviators are men. Frederick Douglass is a guy. Senator Mitchell is a guy. But the rest of the book is driven by portraits of women and strong women. And this author does a really, really wonderful job, I thought, of creating strong women who are not stereotypical. Yes, some of their strengths, maybe. Like there's one story where the woman, basically the thing that's driving her is because she's a mother. She's driven to find her son. So maybe that's stereotypical, but he handles the story in such a way that you feel like you've known this woman your whole life, or she's maybe not someone who's a contemporary of you, but she's that great aunt that you always heard the stories about, who did these amazing things and was this very strong person, and somebody that you can identify with. So I really appreciated his handling of that. I thought he did a wonderful job, considering that the last 3/4 to 2/3 of the book is very female oriented and driven. He doesn't get cutesy. He doesn't take easy routes out of things. He sticks with them, and I think like creates the characters in a place of truth. So I felt like it was a very well written book, and in that respect, I enjoyed it. I would give it 4 stars. Again, I think not having a chronological timeline to hang the book stories on can potentially be a little bit difficult to read. So I get why you did it after the fact, but I sort of felt like I needed to take some notes, and that bothered me a little bit, that I couldn't totally be immersed in the stories, that I had to sort of keep reminding myself who went with what. So again, links down below if you love it. It sounds like your thing, have at it. I am currently reading a book by Barbara Kingsolver, who's one of my favorite authors. This one is called Animal Dreams, which I had not read before, but it is set basically at the New Mexico-Arizona border near Tucson. Halfway through it, loving it so far. She's got some very complex characters and is always the theme of what people do to the land is wrapped up in that. So I'm enjoying it quite a bit, and I'll report on it in a couple of weeks. I'll be back from Stitches then. So you guys hang out. If I see you at Stitches, please come by and say hello and introduce yourself, because y'all know what I look like, but I have no idea what you look like out there in YouTube land. So it'd be great to meet some of you and actually put a face with a like YouTuber name or an Instagram name or any of those things. So until I talk to you then, I hope you have a great couple of weeks. Enjoy March coming in your neck of the woods, whatever weather might be in store for you. And I will talk to you guys then. Take care. Bye.